Bernard here from Content Engagement Lab. Happy Wednesday afternoon. I saw a post this morning on Facebook on Jurassic Park, one of my favorite movies. Many of people often say that it's among their favorites, like classic movie. A little violent, but it's still fun. Anyway, so I saw this post, and it comes from one of the movies where the two actresses, Julianne Moore and Vanessa Lee Chester, were actually in this movie, and they're in a tent, and the Tyrannosaurus Rex head comes out and through the tent opening, and it is an intense scene, right? Now, I speak about AI, but I saw this image and I thought about AI. And the reason why I thought about AI is this. So let me give you a background on this scene here first. This scene actually, so they're this animatronic. Now, if you've ever seen these things on Facebook, these animatronic like T Rexes, they can either have their head, but this thing is pretty heavy, just even if it was the head. But I think it may have been part of like a larger unit potentially here, as it says in the post. Um, Miss Moore and Miss Chester were actually weren't actually laying down the sleeping bags. They were actually standing on a platform below the set, sticking their heads and arms through a hole. Their bodies were just kind of like dummies in the sleeping bag. So literally, they're kind of like, I assume they're kind of like this, and the rest, like probably leaning forward like this, I imagine, or kind of like this, but they're up and below the platform, their bodies are, and their head is above the platform with their arms kind of out in front of them on their, with their heads on and stuff like that. So interesting photo, right? Question is, why did they do this? Well, these animatronics are massive and huge. Some of these things weigh like tons. So they're hydraulics, right? And anybody that deals with computers or technology or any of that knows at times those things can fail, right? So instead of risking the lives of these actresses, because I'm sure they're insured, but their families potentially love them and things like that, they decide to use this platform method. So if by chance that T Rex hydraulic system fails, it doesn't crush them or hurt them. Does that make sense? So this image brought me to AI. And why it brought me to AI is this. Look, you guys, uh, many of us are using AI. What 800,000, right? Open AI people use it every day. Colleges, kids are using it. People, let's see, what was the latest stat I heard? 45% of knowledge workers, white collar workers, are using it in their jobs, even though 5% of companies actually have usage guidelines, by the way. Problem, if you see a problem, you let me know. If you don't have usage guidelines, we need to talk. But anyway, so people are using these technologies, but they don't know exactly what they're capable of. So companies like Claude, for example, are about getting work done. One of those things that's required is an authorization on the front end. I know it's going to drive IT teams completely nuts, and it should. Okay. You have employees just clicking, accepting terms of things and allowing access to, using a one-time password, OLAP, whatever, to give them access to certain facets of business technologies, software applications, browser accessed, proprietary technology, all of that stuff, right? So you need to be aware when you go ahead and accept the terms and conditions. Two things I'm going to encourage you to think about before you start, well, right now, actually, before you start using it and then giving it access to things like your banking systems or even travel plans or shopping experience like Amazon, right? Searching all that stuff. So think about, let's take business and personal. Okay, let's do personal first. Think about allowing access to things like for example, giving Claude or Gemini access to your Apple devices for your exercise and fitness routines. They already have some of that data, but think about the consequence. So yes, we see the benefits. That's often that little slide we see on the front end that talks about like, oh, okay, these are all the cool things it can do now, right? Your heart rate monitor and your your oxygen levels and all, whether you sleep well or not, right? All that can be done and shared, right? So these are good things, but the negative side of that is who has that data and how do you trust them? And are they going to be using that data appropriately? Minimum stuff. As AI tools continue to advance, you have to think about what the goal is of what you're trying to accomplish and only give it access to those things potentially. If it's too much because you've thought about, okay, what if this gets out? What if they train on this stuff? What if they use this in other places? Can my boss actually find out I'm on a specific medication, for example? Right? Until you can figure out the answers to that or think about, okay, I've got my goal in mind, but what about some of the negative things associated with that personal side of it? Use caution. From a business side, and I would say even that like checking account information, again, your Amazon card information, all of that stuff, right? From a business standpoint, the same exact thing. Think about personally when you're using a SaaS application, when you're forced to log in and username, password, and things like that. If Claude is now asking for access to that piece of information, think about, okay, what's the goal of that? And you probably don't want to be checking boxes at this case. You want to be involving IT in this, sending the screenshots and saying, look, can I go ahead and do this? Right? Is this okay to do? And getting that in writing because you don't want to be on the hook for compromising stuff. Okay, so don't just keep accepting terms and get it. Oh, this is really cool. Look at it attached to my email, right? Great, simple solution and connection. But heck, heard a story. What, week and a half ago? Was it one of the ethics and guidelines directors at, was it Meta? I think she was using the Claude bot or whatever. I can't. It's changed names right now. Mootbot, whatever it was, right? The one that can do work for you and just. It was literally she gave it access to her email. And it was deleting emails, and you can hear in the background yelling, "Stop! Stop!" so, so just think about these things before you go ahead and just allow that OLAF checkbox to be checked and saved because you may be compromising really, really important information, or you might be sharing information that you don't want. Because even though the tools and the guidelines say they're okay, these are AI tools, you guys, and they still don't have, and heck, even the creators will say use caution, right, with these tools because as they become more agentic, they're going to be thinking on their own, you guys. So be aware so you don't get crushed by the big malfunctioning Tyrannosaurus Rex head. That's the big takeaway for today. You guys, if I missed anything, if this brought any like thoughts that you want to say, yeah, and Chris, go ahead and drop those and comment. Love to be able to get feedback from you guys. Hope you're having a great week. If you need help with AI, right, for companies, organizations, individuals, love to identify those use cases for you guys where it can save massive amount of work. I have one little workflow, right, saves me 15 hours a week. At a blended rate of $150 an hour, it's $9,000 a month that it saves me, right? Just one simple workflow. Like so many cool things that we can do in technology today. But if you need somebody to help kind of guide you through that, again, Chris Bernard, Content Engagement Lab. Hope you have